In this video, I am going to tell you how to hold the organs in the normal anatomical position. In the soft parts viva, the organs are kept. As soon as the examiner asks you to tell about a particular organ, it is important that you hold the organ in its normal anatomical position. And for that, the morphological knowledge of the particular organ is also very important. So this is liver. And how do we hold liver in the normal anatomical position? I put either my index finger or forceps through the inferior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava, and I put the forceps through the inferior vena cava and keep the forceps straight and hold the liver with my right hand along its inferior border, keeping my fingers anteriorly and my thumb posteriorly like this. Right? So this is how we hold the liver in the normal anatomical position. Holding it with my right hand suggests that this organ, this largest organ, belongs to the right side of the abdomen with its anterior surface anteriorly, right surface on the right side, superior surface and posterior inferior surface. So this is how we are going to hold liver in the normal anatomical position and then start talking about this organ. The second way I may demonstrate the second way also. I'll put my index finger through the inferior vena cava, which suggests that inferior vena cava and the hepatic veins which drain into it is the biggest support of the liver, is the main support of the liver which keeps this organ in its place. Another organ which is kept in the trays of the soft parts are these tubular organs. This has a mesentery attached to it, right? Here another organ, tubular organ, which you can see there are rags and tags and there are some bags of fatty tissue, right? So these two are the intestines. This one is the small intestine, and small, why it is called as small? Look at the caliber. The caliber of this tube is small, so it is small intestine. And this one is the large intestine. It's called as large intestine because its caliber, its width is longer, and hence it is called as large intestine. It's not based on the length, because if you see the length of the large intestine as compared to the length of the small intestine is smaller. So how do we identify these organs? So first we see the width of the tube. Another thing which we have to see is that the presence of these rags and tags here. What are these? These are appendices epiploicae. These are appendices epiploicae. Also you see that this tubular organ has hostrations at places. You know, these are the hostrations. These are the hostrations, and this is because the hostrations are produced because of Taenia coli, right? So hostrations, Taenia coli, wide caliber, these are all the peculiarities or characteristics of large intestine. So this is how we identify large intestine. Regarding the small intestine is longer as compared to the large intestine, and it is smaller in caliber as compared to the large intestine. Sometimes the mesentery may be attached to it, or mesentery may not be attached to it. But if mesentery is attached to it, I find this as an opportunity to tell you that this is the mesenteric border of the small intestine and this is the anti-mesenteric border. These are the two borders of the small intestines. This is how we describe or identify these organs in the examination, and there is no particular way to hold them in the normal anatomical position. You just have to say that this is small intestine and then you start describing them, and based on hostrations, Taenia coli and appendices epiploicae, you say that this is the large intestine and you start telling about the morphology of these organs. Coming to little difficult organ which you find very difficult to hold in the normal anatomical position. See, this is spleen, right? This is spleen. And how do you hold it in the normal anatomical position? You know that it has 2 ends, 3 borders and 2 surfaces. So 2 ends are identified as the posterior end. This is the posterior end, which actually looks like a end, and this is the anterior end, which doesn't look like a end. Instead, it looks like a rounded border. So these are the 2 ends. Posterior end will obviously remain posteriorly, anterior end will remain anteriorly. The diaphragmatic surface, which is smooth, will rest on your hand, because your hand is acting as a diaphragm. Left hand you will use, because spleen lies on the left side of the abdomen. So anterior end anteriorly, posterior end posteriorly, the diaphragmatic surface on the palm. And what we see here, this is the visceral surface. This visceral surface is divided into upper part and lower part by the intermediate border, which passes through the hilum of the spleen. This definitely suggests us that this is the superior border. Superior border is often notched, but notching is not the criteria, a dependable criteria or absolute criteria to hold it in the normal anatomical position. Sometimes the inferior border may also be notched. So this is the superior border, this is the inferior border, and this is the large concave visceral surface which will remain superiorly and anteriorly. This is the absolute criteria to hold the spleen in the normal anatomical position. This is the inferior border. And this is the antero-inferior visceral surface. So this is how, and how do we hold the spleen? In our left hand. और left hand को हमने कैसा कर रखा है? हमने along the axis of the 10th rib हमने उसे टिल्ट किया हुआ है. जैसे लक्ष्मी माता जो पैसे झड़ाती है ना, वैसा कुछ पोजीशन है ये. कीपिंग अवर पाम एंटीरियरली. अब यहीं पर ही मैं इसको स्टिक कर दूंगी spleen को. And this is how we hold the spleen in the normal anatomical position. We don't hold it like this, we don't hold it like this, we don't hold it like this. This is how. Similar to just the Lakshmi Mata, right? So once again I will tell you, this is the posterior end, this is the anterior end, superior border, intermediate border, inferior border. Antero-superior surface is concave and larger. This should be the basis of holding spleen in the normal anatomical position. Now coming to kidneys. Kidneys and more kidneys, right? So these are the kidneys. How do we hold kidney in the normal anatomical position? You are given the organ, you are asked to hold the organ. All you have to see is at the structures at the hilum of the kidney. Let us see the structures at the hilum of the kidney. If you see the structures at the hilum of the kidney, you will realize that there are 3 tubular structures. Okay, 1, 2 and 3. 3 tubular structures. This kidney is open. It will be convenient if I hold a kidney which is not cut open. Okay, let me show you a better specimen. So this kidney, okay, let me use this kidney only. Alright, so here we have 3 tubular structures, out of which one of these tubular structure will be directed inferiorly. It will be tubular and it will be directed towards the inferior pole of the kidney. And how do we know that? And it will be posteriorly. This will be the pelvis, which will continue as the ureter at the lower pole. So P for P, pelvis, most posteriorly in the hilum of the kidney. Most anteriorly will be the vein. Which vein? Obviously the renal vein. So now you see that these are the 2 other structures. This is the vein, renal vein. You see the wall of this vein. This is collapsed, larger caliber. So this is the vein. This one Are you focusing? This one is the artery. So from anterior to posterior in the hilum of the kidney is vein, artery and pelvis. Vein, artery and pelvis from anterior to posterior. Once you organize these structures in the same sequence from anterior to posterior side, you will come to know that this is the superior pole, this is the inferior pole, this is the anterior surface of the kidney, this behind will be the posterior surface of the kidney. So where you have to begin? You just have to see the structures within the hilum of the kidney, okay, and practice it so that you are not flipping these kidneys in front of the examiners, okay. Practice identifying these three structures in the same sequence from anterior to posterior side so that you hold the kidney in the normal anatomical position like this. In this cut section you can be asked that what are these? This is the cortex, the lighter colored is the cortex, and you can see the medullary pyramids here. What is this specimen? Now here, see, in this specimen there are three organs. This is the right side, this is the left side, and in between these two structures are connected. This is the duodenum. This is pancreas, and this is spleen. So this fleshy structure here, flesh-like structure, this is pancreas. This is duodenum and this is spleen. Now coming to a very commonly asked organ, and that is stomach. First of all, how do we hold the stomach? Stomach, we know that it has two ends, two borders and two surfaces. So how do we hold it? We keep the cardiac end superiorly, right? We keep the pyloric end inferiorly. This is the pyloric end. I will hold it with the forceps. This is the pyloric end. This is the lesser curvature of the stomach. And this one is the greater curvature of the stomach. I keep the greater curvature of the stomach towards the left side. The lesser curvature of the stomach facing the right side. This is the anterior surface of the stomach, and obviously behind will be the posterior surface of the stomach. Now, this is how we hold it in the normal anatomical position. For description purposes now, I want to tell you that how do we identify the two ends of the stomach. Now, look at this end and look at its angulation with the rest of the body. There is a deep angulation here. This is called as angulation at the cardiac end. This is the cardiac end. Now try to palpate the other end. If you try to palpate the other end, you will realize you will feel or you will palpate the pyloric sphincter here. If it is cut open, you can also appreciate the sphincter very well. But even if the specimen is intact, you can definitely palpate the pyloric sphincter here. So that is how you will come to know that this is the pyloric end, and the other, which is not so thick, not so sphincteric, is the cardiac end. And then hold the ends like this with the cardiac end superiorly and more towards the left side, and the pyloric end inferiorly. This is how we hold the specimen of stomach. Coming to the specimen of testis. Now testis, you will have to hold the testis in such a way that the superior pole is superiorly, the inferior pole is inferiorly, and the superior pole is superiorly, the inferior pole is inferiorly, and this is the sulcus. This is the sulcus of epididymis, right? This one is epididymis, this one is testis proper, and this is the sulcus of epididymis. The sulcus of epididymis should be facing posterolaterally, right? So this is how we hold it. So this is the testis of right side. Alright, let us see another one, right? Here also Here you can see, hold it in such a way that upper pole is at the upper end, lower pole is at the lower end, and here this is the sulcus, right? This is the sulcus. So the sulcus is facing posterolateral. So that is how we decide the side of the testis. Coming to another specimen, this is the specimen of the uterus and the ovaries. What all you can observe here, and how do we hold it in the normal anatomical position? See, you can observe the broad ligament. And now I keep it down. I show you that this is the fundus of the uterus. This is the anterior surface of the uterus. But how do we identify? This is the broad ligament of the uterus. Whenever the specimen of uterus is there along with the ovaries, remember that ovaries, they lie in the posterior part of the broad ligament. So we cannot hold this specimen like this. When the ovaries are there, the ovaries should be kept posteriorly in the normal anatomical position. So hold the specimen with its broad ligament, keeping the ovaries posteriorly. So this is how we hold, and this is the uterus, the fundus of the uterus, the body of the uterus. This is the broad ligament. These are the ovaries, and these are the fallopian tubes. Thank you. And now, how to identify bladders, right? Now bladder will be either a male bladder with the prostate or a female bladder. Female bladder will be more or less flat. It will be having these ureters at the superolateral ends, right? And it will be like this bag of muscle. And male, in case of male ureter, what will be the identifying features? The identifying features will be the presence of the seminal vesicles, ejaculatory ducts, and the ureters. So this is the superior surface, right? On the posterior surface, that is the base, superiorly, there will be these structures, that is seminal vesicles, vas deferens, and ejaculatory ducts, and the ureters here. And inferiorly at the neck, there will be prostate, this hard prostate. Thank you.